Hello, it's Dr. Farmer, and I wanted to talk to you all about how to start the class. There are some important points about accessing key features of the class that I wanted to show you guys. So let's start out. If you go to Desire to Learn, enter your password and log in, and then open this class, your first day, you will see this page. Click on week 0, start here, and there will be a welcome video here that will be tailored specifically to this class to welcome you to the class. And then you will have the syllabus here. If you click on the syllabus, you see that it tells us everything that you need to know about what the requirements of the class are, what the point totals are for the class, and how to be successful in the class. If you scroll down the syllabus, you'll see one of the important parts of the syllabus is the discussion requirements. Each week, you're responsible for responding to 2 discussion questions. These discussion questions, not only do you have to answer 2 discussion questions, but you need to go online on 2 different days. In addition to answering those 2 questions, you also have to respond to at least 2 peer threads. All right? So answer 2 questions and then give 2 responses on 2 different days. Your first entry must be posted by 12 p.m. on Wednesday of the week, and your second response or your final responses are due by 12 p.m. on Saturday of that week. So each week you have till 12 on Wednesday to post, and then you have to complete your post by 12 on Saturday. You have to answer 2 questions, and you have to give 2 responses. I hope this is clear. If it's not, I'll show you where to ask questions. So now that we know what's required for the discussion questions, how do you actually respond to discussion questions? In order to respond, you go to Communication, Discussions, and this is the page that comes up. And as you can see, each week has discussions for week 1, 2, 3, and so on. So if you click the discussions for week 1, you have a first section that says Q&A forum. In this forum, you can ask me anything. And then you can check back to see what my response was. Also, your peers can respond to your questions there, because oftentimes they know the answer before and may respond before I do. So that's a weekly thing that's available, and that's probably the fastest way to get me. I'm subscribed to all of the Q&A forums, so as soon as you post a message there, I receive an email, and then I respond as soon as possible. After the Q&A forum, you see the first week's discussion questions. It's about dysfunctional behavior. It says it's graded. Notice the Q&A form is not graded. If you don't have a question for that week, then you don't have to ask a question for that week. But for the weekly discussion questions, they are graded. And you see, it says, while individuals can be dysfunctional, so can families, workplaces, occupations, and neighborhoods. What are some examples of dysfunctional or abnormal workplaces or occupations that fit this description? Describe the features that were dysfunctional, for example, vindictive personnel, chaotic management, rules that keep changing, confusion, blaming, or unethical practices. Notice that many of the discussion questions do not have a right or wrong answer. I'm really interested in having you respond to a question where you apply the information that you've read and the information that you've learned from the other discussion responses. So it's important that prior to you attempting to answer the discussion questions, that you read the chapter. Once you decide you've read the question and you're prepared to answer, then you click on that discussion question. Let me go back. So you click on it, and you say start a new thread. I recommend that you always start a new thread with your name, so that I know who this answer is coming from, and then your answer. And you might say something like, I won't type all of this out, but Dr. Farmer, the posts this week were very interesting. I think that blah, blah, blah. All right. Typically, thread responses are about, 40 to 50 words, somewhere in that, and it really varies depending on what the question is. But once you type in your answer, you click post, and you see that your post comes up. Dr. Farmer, I just did this today. Now, after you post, remember you have to also respond on a different day. So if after everyone's posted, for example, you'll see about 15 or 20 of these Dr. Farmer things here. You go through and you should read most of them every week. Once you read one that's interesting to you, you want to reply to it. So you click reply and another text box opens. You type your response there and then you click post. And as you can see, I've now responded to my previous response or previous answer to the weekly discussion question. I hope that this has been helpful in allowing you to get started on a very important part of the class, focusing on the discussion questions. So make sure that you go and print the syllabus and that you have that as a springboard for completing the tasks necessary for this class. Hello, it's Dr. Farmer, and I wanted to give you some tips on how to begin the class. There are some important parts of the class that you need to make sure that you pay attention to. First thing I would like for you to do is go to the syllabus. When you open up D2L and you log in, your home page will look like your normal home page, and make sure that you then open Psych 330 in this class. Once you open this class, your home page should look similar to this, and you should see the syllabus in your course content browser. When you open up the syllabus, you will see a copy of the syllabus there. Make sure you print this out and save it on your computer because you will need to refer to this regularly. Students often send me questions about the class that are already in the syllabus. And this shows me that you haven't read the syllabus if you ask me a question that's already in it. And oftentimes I don't respond to those questions. I simply say, refer to the syllabus. So, once you see the syllabus, an important part that I want to make sure that you recognize is the part that talks about discussion requirements. Each week, you are responsible for answering 2 discussion questions in the class. You must answer these 2 discussion questions, and you must also log on to the group discussion questions on 2 different days of the class. That is because not only do you answer 2 questions, but you are also responsible for responding to the questions or answers of 2 peers. It's important to note that the first entry must be submitted by 12 p.m. on the Wednesday of the week, and then the final response is due by 12 p.m. on Saturday of that week. 2 questions that require 2 answers, and then you also have to go online 2 different days to do this, and you must respond to 2 different peer threads. So then you ask the question of how do I respond to these questions? Well, if you go back to the course homepage, you go to communication, discussions, and you see a list of the weekly discussion questions here. All right. So if you go to week 1 discussion questions, you'll see the first assignment that I have for you is to post your student introductions. You introduce yourself to the class. Now you have to answer who you are, why did you take the course, what are your goals for the course, and any other interesting information you think might be relevant to peers in your class knowing. Now if you do this by simply typing it out, you get 2 points. If you do it and you add a picture, you get 5 points. And if you do it via video and post that video to D2L, then you will get 10 points extra credit for this assignment. All right? But let's talk about the actual questions. Oh, another important part is this Q&A forum here. This is the quickest way to get in contact with me. I am subscribed to all Q&A forums, and this is an opportunity for you to ask me any question that comes to mind over the course of this week. I will check this forum every week on a regular basis, and this is the fastest way to get me. Once you post, I immediately receive an email, and I respond to that email as soon as possible. So each week has a Q&A forum. Oftentimes also your peers will respond to you because they often know the answer to the question, and they may already be online and be in a place where they can respond quicker than I can. And that's perfectly fine. You post these questions not only to me, but to others in the class. Now, once you get to the graded weekly discussion questions, the first one asks about your personality. It says the book defines personality as the underlying causes within the person of individual behavior and experience. And then I ask you, how would you define your personality? In order to answer this question, you click on the question and you go here to start a new thread. This text box opens. I recommend that you put your name, and then in the post, you type your response. I would define my personality as being comprised of both environmental and biological factors. The biological factors consist of genetic contributions from both of my parents and my ancestry, and then my environmental component of my personality would be the things that I've learned over the course of my life. I would type all of that information out in this box like so, click post, and now you see that Dr. Farmer's response to the first discussion question is posted. So every week, each of you all will respond, and this is how you do class participation. Then I expect you to go online weekly, read your peers' responses, and then respond to them. So this should say all the things that I just said. Of course, I just typed a bunch of gibberish for this example. And then you might want to reply to my response. And you might say something like, Dr. Farmer, I agree. My personality is also part environmental, part genetics. However, I think that my genetic piece is most important because I see a lot of characteristics that my parents exhibit in myself. You type that out. You might say, what do you think? And then you post your response. So now you've answered a question and you've done your response. Remember, you have to do that twice each week, and you're ready to move on to the next question. You go back to the discussions list, and you look at the second question, and you respond to that. I hope this has been helpful in allowing you to get started on important parts of the class. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email me or post a thread in the Q&A forum here. That's what it's for. Until then, I'm looking forward to getting started in the semester. Have a good day.